Namaste. Welcome to Satsang, everyone. And just in case, I think it might be good to mention on the recording that Satsang is now every Thursday, and it alternates this time this week here, 7 p.m. in the UK. And then next week it'll be Thursday at 11 a.m., which is just going to alternate unless we're on retreat. So instead of it being Monday and Thursday, it'll now be live every Thursday, so we can all get into a routine. So the thing that I end up talking about in a satsang like this is always the thing that's been kind of prevalent that week before, the days leading up to the satsang. And this week, well, as every week, life suggests a subject. And of course, it's all the same subject. It's all talking about what we really are, but a different aspect of that. And this week has been no different. I've been kind of bombarded by people having some kind of heart opening, and it's been going on for myself as well, a deepening even further. Every time I feel that my heart is about to explode, if I feel any more love, it kind of goes a little further. So I thought it might be a good thing to speak about because it's an integral part of awakening, and it tends to come more as our seeing is deepening and our awakening is maturing. But it can happen at any time, and it certainly did for me. And it's kind of heart opening is a different kind of awakening than awakening to the realization that we're not separate to anything. That understanding kind of liberates a lot of the thinking. The mind begins to become much quieter. And for me, there was a lot of peace that came when I began to realize I'm not separate to anyone or anything. And perhaps most noticeably, an absence of fear and diminishment in unworthiness and all of that. But behind that and underneath that, and then after that, there was this kind of ongoing heart opening where the realization has gone deeper that it's not only that I'm not separate to anyone or anything else, but I also am everyone and everything else. And even if you're not sort of aware of this consciously yet, you may begin to notice these moments where love just begins to fill your being, flood your being, and you begin to experience a very different way of living, of moving around the world. We kind of get caught in this very synchronistic flow. Everything seems to just unfold perfectly, and we happen to meet whoever we need to meet, and things just fall into place. And it's all happening inside this kind of loving embrace of life. And I really wanted to talk today about how to kind of facilitate that and work with that. Because even deeper than peace, really even better than bliss, is to be able to look with your eyes open at your world and feel nothing but a sense of deep connection, respect for all of this creation, and a sense of fulfillment and contentment and wonder and awe that really wasn't present for me at first. First, it came as peace and contentment and a lack of suffering. And then later it blossomed into this deep, deep, rich love. And it's really that kind of love that we haven't tasted before as human beings. We've tasted conditional love, usually in our relationships and perhaps with our relationship with our own self. Conditional love being, I love you when, or I love you if you make me feel this way, or I'll love myself when this changes about me, or I love myself, I'll approve of myself, I'll accept myself. These are all words for love, aren't they? When and if, and this is conditional love. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's where we start from. But this deeper, richer, even further than unconditional love is non-dual love, which is just love without an object, just love. That whatever I see and I perceive is my own self, is the self. And it may be appearing as something different, but it isn't really actually different. And maybe even just for a moment now, you can just take a moment and say, imagine within yourself, what would it feel like as an exercise to kind of open ourselves to this love? We can all do it right now. What would it be like if I didn't feel I had to guard myself from anyone or anything? Our mind says, when the world's a safer place, when my world's a safer place, I'll let down my barriers. And we all have these barriers, these conditional ways of loving ourselves and others. This love, as it begins to emerge, sometimes we can help this love to emerge into our world. And it opens our heart and it begins to transform all of our life. What would it be like to meet everyone in your world with curiosity, and open curiosity and a wonder? The very next person you meet is a divine incarnation of Krishna or of Christ or of Muhammad or any of the great sages and saints that you may have learned from or revered. The very next person, no matter how that human being is, where they're at in their own awakening, whether they're completely still lost in their own thoughts about being a separate being, what would it be like to kind of meet them and there be no self-consciousness, no barriers, no defense mechanism, nothing within me that says I have to hold back a little bit here? Can you just for a moment imagine that rich quality where there's a love that is so complete that it not only, it's not that it doesn't care, this love, what you've done or what you haven't done or what you feel you need to change about yourself or how you feel you need to improve yourself before you're worthy of this love. It literally doesn't see anything other than itself, this pure, brilliant, non-dual love. It's not like, okay, I love you because I'm looking past all of your faults and flaws. It's like I don't see anything other than this love. No matter how convinced you are that there's something that needs fixing about you, or that you're not awakened enough or whatever. All this love sees when it looks at something is it sees the same thing looking back, the same impeccable perfection already so in that. So how do we facilitate that? How do we allow that to come into our, we're so good at allowing the wisdom to come in, but then allowing the heart to open really gives us all the goodies of this awakening, this kind of synchronistic, beautiful dance of manifestation moving, of which each body mind is a small part in this kind of choreographed whole movement of the universe, of which there is a step and a flow, a way that your life wants to go, where it just becomes this magical awe and wonder day after day, feeling blessed, feeling loved, feeling excited and passionate about life again. And for me, the way that I really began to allow this love is to be willing to question the things that were in the way of it. Of course, these ideas I had that I wasn't ready for it, that I wasn't going to be able to handle it, that I didn't deserve this pure love. And we're calling it love. We could call it grace. We could call it the self. But it's here right now, and it is always 24 hours a day trying to break through the smallest crack in our defense mechanisms And what a gift that would be for humanity if you began to let that in. And I know you are, of course, but it's beautiful and wonderful to be able to move through your whole existence and forgetting how to guard yourself, because that love flows through so powerfully that not only does it begin to steer people away from you who don't have your best interests at heart, they're literally repelled by that love. They cannot stay in your vicinity. Or if they do, their intentions are immediately softened and changed. So it's a gift to you, and it's a gift to those around you, and it's a gift to the world as well. And we're so familiar with wisdom, but love is the other aspect of this awakening, isn't it? And whether we're calling it acceptance or approval or love, we can give this to ourselves right now. Most of us, it's a very, very exceptional human being that doesn't need to meet someone who's an example of this first before they open up. Most human beings need to meet at least one being that is broadcasting this unassailable love out into the world, just to see that it's possible. I know I needed that too. I didn't even know there was that kind of love possible. And that love that just kind of transforms everything when it touches it. It redeems it, it makes it whole. It doesn't fix anything, because nothing's broken. It just, in its intensity of powerful loving embrace, you cannot simply hold on to any unworthiness in that loving embrace of the self. And whether we're calling it love or grace or the self or awareness, that is its main quality, for want of a better word. Right now, your awareness, the awareness, is totally allowing everything in this moment to be exactly as it is. The one thing awareness cannot do is to try to change anything or reject anything. It doesn't have the capacity to say, this is not right, this is not how it should be. And isn't it doing this right now with your own mind and body? Isn't it completely awareness or love, allowing your egoic sense of self to be as completely as it wants to be? Hasn't it always too? And we can make a huge leap right now in our awakening. Right now, if we begin to act as, speak as this awareness, this pure love, instead of speaking from the ego about your ego, what would this love say about you? If love had a mouth and it could speak, what would it say? And it would probably start off with telling you that there's absolutely nothing ever changed about you, ever. Nothing ever went wrong for you. And that all the reasons you're saying that you're not ready for this immense, immense ocean of love are simply not true. And that you never had to earn it, deserve it, be ready for it. Nobody can really be ready for this anyway. Whenever it comes, it's always so intense in its embrace. It washes away everything, every idea you have about yourself of being less than already whole and perfect. Perfect and also evolving still. Sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Perfectly as you've always been. And also this body and mind evolving into allowing and expressing this love. So what's the one thing you can do today, right now, to change your entire life and your awakening? And that is to give yourself a break. Over and over again, I encounter people doing exactly the same thing as I did. And that is to blame myself when, if I believe my thoughts again, I might see that I'm not my thoughts. And then a couple of hours later, I'm buying these thoughts and really having a miserable time. As if there's something I could have done to stop that happening. Finally, when this love got strong enough inside, it had been allowed in tiny bit by tiny bit by tiny bit, and then faster and faster and faster. And there was this one moment where, and there's been 100,000 moments, but the first moment I remember, this immense intensity of love that was just so strong. Well, I thought I was having a heart attack. That was, we were speaking about that last night on the Awakening Together session, but I thought I was having a heart attack. It turned out my heart chakra was just opening and this love was pouring out. The first thing it did was just kind of fill up my body and my mind and left no room at all for any sense of any imperfection. Not that I've finally fixed everything that was wrong and kind of put myself back to factory settings, not like that. That everything I ever think had happened to me to make me less than whole was an utter lie. And that was so clear in this love. And I'm asking you now, if you're willing to let this in a little bit more, if you're willing to allow this in just a little bit more, wouldn't it be nice to feel confident about yourself? Wouldn't it be nice to feel joyful? Wouldn't it be nice to laugh a lot more? Wouldn't it be nice to feel playful, to feel excited? Wouldn't it be nice to look at someone with so much love in your eyes that they're moved to tears? They might not even know why, but they just feel it, even if they're not even interested in awakening. That just a look from you melts them, and they can't defend themselves or be harsh to themselves while they're with you. There is this ocean, infinite ocean of love. And most human beings go through their whole existence without ever touching it. And even those that open to it, it's infinite. It's never, I'm never going to be able to get to the end of this love. And that is a joyful thing for me. Every time I have a deeper seeing, this love pours through even more strongly. And there is a time where you can't remember how to think a negative thought about yourself or anyone else. And it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you passive. It can be quite the opposite, in fact. It can move you, this love, to towards change that we need to see in the world right now. But from this place of wholeness where you can't see any flaws or faults. And it's like walking around inside this cushioned, cocooned bubble of love where your presence transforms everything and everyone around you to whatever degree they're open to it. It's not like you're doing anything to make that happen. You're just coming from this true place. Can you begin to tune into this? Can you accept a little bit more today that there is no pre-qualification for this love, but the very fact that you're here is evidence of this love. Love created this body-mind vehicle, your body-mind vehicle. And this perfect love doesn't make any imperfect creations. From perfect to perfect. Again and again, everything it creates, everything is perfect. including you, your mind and body. It is only our thoughts that say otherwise, isn't it? And if you couldn't somehow think for a moment, if you imagine if you lost the ability to think, would you still be able to berate yourself? Would you still be able to judge yourself so harshly? And I really, really, really would like you to feel this intensity of love that is just waiting for the tiniest moment of maybe I'm already ready for this. Maybe I never was unworthy. Maybe it's my thoughts that I was unworthy that's kept this love out because it's such a different frequency. Maybe in the end, the only thing we can do is surrender to it, whether we feel ready or not, whether we feel worthy or not. And it'll begin to fill up your life, your mind, your heart, your whole body, and it'll pour out into your relationships. This is already happening for you. It's not something that's going to start. It's already changing you, isn't it? It's just changing you slower than if you consciously work with it. You cannot keep it out forever, although we do a good resistance to it. We do have resistance. Could you talk to yourself a little bit more kindly? Can you be a little bit nicer to yourself wherever you're at in your journey? Human existence is quite often extraordinarily difficult. It doesn't always go the way we want it to or need it to. And we're all doing the best we can, aren't we? So maybe just here with me now, you might feel inclined to open your heart a little bit more, to be willing to drop some of your defenses a little bit more today, tonight. Do you really need them anyway? Are they actually working, these defenses? Or are they just causing you more pain? They were necessary when they were necessary, but now, how about now? I so would love you to feel this love, to feel it run through your entire system. And your body will welcome it, your body will love it. And it just takes a decision. It just takes a willingness to believe that everything you need to do to be ready for this has already happened. You are already the infinite being. There never was a separate self. And there never was a separate self with all its karmic patterns that need to be undone. That is the seeing. That's the clear seeing of love. None of what I thought was true about myself has ever been. Even the original lie I told myself, which is that I split off from this love and went my own way, and then somehow lost my original purity in that, my original wholeness. That none of that ever occurred, and that you are now as you have always been. Please don't wait until you feel ready for this. You will never feel ready for the immensity of love, but it will embrace you anyway. And of course, peace is wonderful. Peace is amazing. But can you let more in? Can you let more love in, more joy? When was the last time you woke up and felt excited about life? Willing to challenge this story that there's somewhere else you need to go or something else you need to have happen before you can just be your awakened self already. Allowing in this powerful love that just transforms all this guilt and unworthiness as if it was never there. How long does it take to get rid of the effects of a separate self that never existed? How long does that take? And most of us have seen, as I did, that there isn't really a separate self, or we're in that process of seeing, but we're still believing that we have to clear up the effects of that. I have to release unworthiness and all of that stuff. I have to come back to wholeness. Isn't that the last part of the story? What if when you go to bed tonight and you're brushing your teeth and you look in the bathroom mirror, you recognize yourself as this immense ocean of love from which your body and mind has emerged in all of this? Is there anything that can get in the way of that if you decide it's time? It's time for you right now. It's time for you to be a living example, a living Buddha, to begin to transform your little pocket of the world, wherever you live, your body lives, to begin to radiate this love. And there is nothing else that needs to fall into place before that occurs. And it's only just a few ideas that's holding that back. And that is that somehow the awakened being somehow passed some final test that you haven't, or something like that. Or this love is powerful, but it will never force itself upon you. It must be invited. It must be invoked. It must be open to. And haven't all the great teachers and masters that have ever walked this planet said the same thing, that you are already that love? I get a little passionate about this, and sometimes I really wish I could just show you how it feels, that love that doesn't need anything from you at all. Show you for a moment how much you are loved already, exactly as you are. And of course, it is each one of us our choice to allow this in when we feel we're ready. And I'm really hoping that now is the time you recognize that you're ready. It's a lifetime's work allowing this love in. I'm still working on it because it's infinite, it's immense. And my body and mind get an upgrade each time I allow more of this love in. And then my outer world gets another upgrade. So it never comes to an end. It just gets more and more beautiful each time. You have this kind of surge in how much you're willing to love yourself is really what it comes down to. Loving yourself doesn't mean reaching some state where you feel lovable. It means loving yourself as you are right now. Taking your life, your awakening, your relationships, your your karmic patterns, whatever's going on, and not using that as an excuse to withhold love from yourself anymore. What would that be like if you just decided now that there's no good reason to withhold love from yourself? To begin to like yourself. Can you remember what that's like, to actually like yourself? Can you be your own best friend first of all. You're doing an amazing job under very difficult circumstances. Trying to move through this world under the illusion that you're separate to everyone and everything else is about as difficult as it gets. And then trying to come out of that under the sheer force of habit of believing it is about as difficult as it gets. And here you are doing it anyway. So I won't go on any longer, except to say, because I could talk about this forever. Sometimes I'd like to kind of get everyone in a room and just kind of lock the doors until everyone says some loving statement about themselves. But anyway, just to wish sincerely that you would believe and love yourself the same way that all the great beings have done and do. To see yourself as a divine incarnation of the self already, as you are right now. This is how the self sculpted you. Can that really be a mistake? Really? Okay. I think we need a very big room to get everyone in. Maybe we'll do that one day. Okay, I'll read a couple of questions that have been sent in. If you want to ask something or share something, feel free to raise your hand. This one says, "Hi Helen, I hope you're well. It's always a great pleasure to see your new videos released. Your conceptual framework of asking the question, is it really true, has been helpful, mostly to see how as a separate person, there is an underlying belief that continuously vibrates at a level that says, I am not worthy, not loved, etc. But at some point, it feels infinite to ask this, and it relates to someone in the body. If in reality there is only energy or consciousness, why should there be something that must be done, and who is doing it? Doesn't it bring forth a stronger sense of being someone? It seems like this struggle has always been with the self. And if it doesn't exist, who is given these exercises, and why does thoughts, emotions, etc. keep perpetuating the same thing and attract people with the same energy, where there is a play of victim and bully, good and bad, and need for approval, guilt, shame, etc. For example, it's tiring to always have people saying mean things and not being able to see why and change whatever belief is there. And it feels even more limited when knowing that there is no one to change that. So it feels like I'm in between the two worlds of there is nobody and it can be seen, but the thoughts and emotions are not aligned with this seeing. And moreover, like who sees that there is only emptiness? It feels a bit like the energy of thoughts and emotions are so strong that it will make me mad. And it feels like there is always a blockage and it will never stop. When will it stop? Thank you so much. Much love. So if you have seen that there is nobody to take instruction, there is no separate being. So when I'm asking you to contemplate, is this really true? Who am I actually speaking to? Am I speaking to a separate being? Or am I asking the self to look? It's always the infinite self that's looking. And as I look and see that there isn't a separate being, it becomes clear that it's not true. You said here, it feels limiting when you know there's no separate being to do anything about these patterns, where someone's being mean to you and you feel terrible. But take that even further now, There's no separate self and never was. And it also means there's no one to take this kind of insult personally. There's only the awareness, there's only the love. So who's doing this inquiry, this contemplation? The self. Who's seeing these thoughts aren't true and letting go of this belief? The self. Capital S. No separate self. So you're only seeing when you contemplate. You're not doing anything. You're only coming to see these thoughts I've had about myself being not good enough, and then it reflecting in my life as people being mean to me, is really, I'm coming to see clearly that the personal reactions, the karmic patterns, are all part and parcel of this separate being that doesn't exist. When I look and try to find myself, I find only awareness. I find only the self, the love, as we're calling it here tonight. So don't stop halfway. It's not that there's no separate being and therefore you can't do anything about these karmic patterns. Who do these patterns belong to? And do these patterns remain when you see there's no separate self that they belonged to? Me and my patterns. Well, when there's no separate me, is there any patterns left? This scene just needs to go a little deeper. Not only is there no separate self, but there isn't anything then to get rid of. So have a play with that and see. It ends, you said, when will it end? It ends when I see that these unworthiness and the story I tell myself about not being safe, not being good enough, not being ready, all of that. All of these stories are dependent on a someone to whom they belong. When I find that that someone is missing, is absent, then along with it has to go all of these stories. Have a play with that and we'll see where it goes, and let me know. Interested to see what happens there. Okay, so Natasha and Rob have the hand up. Natasha, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
I actually wanted to share on Awakening Together last night, but
we kind of ran out of time, didn't we?
We ran out of time, which was absolutely fine. I was just totally blissed out. I feel like that all week, really. It's funny because we did the intensive on Sunday, and there was talk without going into it, but at the beginning about being worthy, and I was really not in a place of much worthiness. And it just sort of transformed over the course of the day. And then I've just been like tripping in this sort of state of synchronicities and just like bliss. I mean, my sense is just enormous gratitude to you, really, how my life in lots of ways is transformed. Nothing's really changed very much. I have more time on my hands, and yeah, like even in the Sangha meetings this week, there was this wonderful synchronicity of love. It was all about love, and I don't know why I picked a certain recording, and then Savita picked a certain something, and it just sort of everything was just the same theme, exactly what you're talking about now, and yesterday talking about desire. And yeah, this sort of sense, or the euphoria almost frightens me. And there was this
says it's a little bit too much. This is a little too much, isn't it? Or it's a lot too much.
Yeah. And that I noticed just now sitting and listening to you, and there was this sort of sense of, well, you know this is going to pass. You'll go, it's like this kind of extreme can't last, it can't be sustained. And I could even feel that coming over me with my belief, of course. And then I just relaxed and thought, okay, it's all the noumenon. So whatever it is, is all fine. And then there was a resting again, and then it came back.
It surged again, yeah.
Yeah, it surged again.
Can you see there's this in me, there was a small voice that wasn't so small in those moments. It just couldn't quite let myself be loved. Just, even though it was already happening and this love was flowing, there was something that said, yeah, but you better not get used to this, or allow it fully, or something's going to go wrong, or, you know, something. It wasn't even a clear voice. It was just a yes, but.
Yeah,
that's
exactly it. It's like, I've got to crash.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that you're sort of,
just
I'm right away.
Like yeah, I can't just live like this. This is not possible. Some kind of, I hit this real barrier of, you can't just be in love and joy and peace the whole time. You know, that's just not how human beings live. Some kind of real disbelief, it came up as it really began to surge, and I kind of had to remind myself that this is just my natural state reasserting itself. Everyone's natural state. Just because it feels totally abnormal doesn't mean it's not our natural state. It feels abnormal to be swimming around in love, doesn't it? And not need to defend myself from the world.
I think that's key, isn't it?
And this yes, but is just a very tiny defense mechanism. You know, some kind of, I'd better just keep a hold of some ability to close myself just in case.
Yeah.
Something like that.
How far can I trust?
Yeah.
This.
And ultimately, if I let this in and then it goes, I will be heartbroken. You know, and we've all had this kind of experience, haven't we? But really seeing it's only my own thoughts that can obscure this, and just surrendering into it. I don't want to guard myself from this. I'm so tired of guarding myself from this. I'd like to allow it more. I'd like to see actually what it's possible to live like. Other beings have done it, so it must be possible for me. And it's not necessarily true that to walk around closed is actually safer or happier, is it? That hasn't really worked. It never worked for me. It made me miserable. Got me into some right messes as well, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I've seen it in everything this week. In the people I meet, I think about them and then I meet them. An opportunity arises to reconnect with someone. Yeah. And I take the step and everything's just working out. And
life is just trying to give us all of this good stuff, but we've lost our ability temporarily to trust it, haven't we? We have to relearn that step by step. What if life is actually working for me? I've just been experiencing my thoughts about the fact that it isn't, over and over again, that it isn't safe to trust. We've all got experiences. We could say, yes, but this bad thing happened when I opened up. But only because of this idea that the universe is unfriendly or something, isn't it? That it's out to get me, you know, that life is hard, and all these beliefs come to the surface as a reason not to let this love in. But it sounds like you're done with those.
So those bad or challenging experiences then are also just part of everything too.
Yeah, I imagined myself to be a small and vulnerable being, so life had to agree with me. And because I kept experiencing it, I felt even more justified in closing off and defending. And then I kept experiencing it even more, and it just kind of spiraled from there. So there's a certain amount of just releasing my defenses against or to life, just because I don't want to live my life through some filter anymore. I don't want to diminish my experience of all of this. And I don't want to leave this body with my last thought being, I wish I'd opened up more.
Yeah.
You know, that just became unbearable for me. The idea that the last breath in this body would be some kind of regret. You know, mostly about awakening, of course. And I just decided in the end, I'm going to go all out. I'm just going to see how much I can love myself just by talking to myself nicer each day. see what effect that has. And within 30 days, I was just kind of swimming around in bliss. I didn't know what to do with myself, and in a good way.
Yeah.
And everyone else loves it around you as well. They all just fall in love with it. They drink it completely. And you have all these wonderful meetings and synchronicities, like we were saying.
Yeah.
Once you get on that upward spiral, it's easier to stay on it then, isn't it? You've done the hard work now. Just notice when something wants to protect or close, and be sneaky sometimes. Wonderful. Well done. And thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Lovely. Okay. Rob, when you're ready.
Hi there, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, it's my first iPad here.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, boy, did I connect with your talk today. Oh my goodness.
Good.
It was like you were speaking right to me. You were looking
because
right
I've
into
been
my
right
eyes.
there, right? I've been right there, and I know exactly what's going on inside because I've been right there. So it's the same one issue for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you were right. You were right there, like right now. That was incredible. And what I got from your last couple of sentences there about what you said, you just chose to be kind to yourself all day long. And yeah, I felt that. Holy, because yeah, I'm beating myself up all day actually. And you know, I haven't got this yet. I've been doing this for 20 plus years and still trying, like you said, I got these regrets. You know, I'm getting over 50 now, and you know, I don't want to, you know, I just want to just, you know, this desire just to be myself, the true self, obviously, is so strong. And it's over 20 years, every few years, it really gets strong. And then fear comes in. There's been fear, like there's been pretty extreme fear, like this past summer, which I talked to you about, and even 10, 15 years ago, I felt I was dying. Like I felt I'm disappearing really strongly. One time, which is really strange, like I've been in high school for 30 years, and I had this one day of just total fear that I was dying. And I get this message from somebody from high school who I didn't even know. And they said, "Are you okay?" Like, how did that work, you know? But the fear was so strong, and that's what freaks me out. Like you were saying, just let go into this love, which I feel it's right here.
Yeah.
But you know, in the course, there's a lesson, you know, sickness is a defense against the truth. And yeah, the mind is scared to be dissolved.
For me, it really helped to see that there was a sense of dying, but not like something ending. What really died was the only thing that died for me in the process was my ability to believe that this separate sense of this mind and body was all I am. So there was a recognition, this love, this awareness, whatever we want to call it, has always included and allowed my egoic sense of self, it to be exactly as dysfunctional as it was at the time. It's never once, love has never said, you should not be like this. It's only the ego that's saying that about itself. And it looks at the ego looks at love as some kind of angry, or the self capital S as some kind of angry parent that's going to come back and tell it off. And for it feels strongly, deeply, the ego, that for this love to move in, it's going to have to move out. But for me, it was experienced very differently. When I really looked at this, the fear began to go, because a lot of the fear is, I don't want to lose anything in this awakening. I don't want to lose this sense of Helen as I am right now. But what it was experienced like, it was more of an upgrade. There was this Helen and also this recognition of where all this has emerged out of, that it's always been here, that it's never once tried to get rid of me as a separate being, and never could try, that it's completely non-violent in that way. It can't extinguish the ego. It just kind of dissolves. The ego just lets go and dissolves in the love, the loving acceptance of it. The self has just always allowed your mind to be however it is completely, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mind thinks it's got to be either or. For the real self to move in, then the false self has to move out. But what if that's not true? What if you don't even have to pick either or? For me, that was fundamental to this, to really get that, because the fear just went then. Every time I got close to this love, there was this backing off, because yes, but it's going to cost me too much. Some part of me is going to have to die. But maybe the only thing that dies is the ability to only see myself one way. So I know now that I'm infinite in everywhere. And I also know I'm also this being here, doing whatever it is to be Helen, you know, going through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing that says this small self should just completely disappear, because it's only a sense of self anyway. It's honored and valued and cherished and loved by the awareness, isn't it? The ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it just
Yeah,
helps us, it's the fear to melt away then, when you really get that.
yeah, I feel that what you said there. Like this saying, God or consciousness has veiled itself with itself.
Mm.
So this is I look at this separation, the sense of separation, as the veil, but it's consciousness. And I'm starting to be more aware of that sense of separation, that when that fear does come up. And I guess it's kind of like treating it like a little child, right? Like just allow that child to react in fear, anxiety, whatever, and just be with it, I guess. That's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. It works in duality, the mind, the egoic sense of self. So it says big self or small self. And it thinks that it's got to be one or the other. Hence this massive, massive fear. If I embrace the real self that I am, I'm going to lose everything that I think I am. That's going to have to go. But the small self has always just been swimming around in this vast ocean of love that is incapable of destroying anything. And we, as you said, you can just kind of love it and embrace it and understand that our mind, our egoic sense of self, cannot see that. So it's always going to try to resist a little bit this awakening process, because it thinks it's going to cost it too much. Mm-hmm. So just kind of like trying to explain calculus or algebra to a 2-year-old, eventually you just go, it's okay, you don't need to get that, you don't need to understand that. And your loving understanding of why it can't see there's nothing to fear allows it to just relax. There's just a relaxation in that. Mm-hmm. Why should the self, big self, capital S, come and stomp all over your ego now? Why now? Just because you finally discovered the self is there, capital S. It's not just going to come now and go, now I'm going to destroy you, but this is how the ego sees it. It kind of has this fear, doesn't it? And we don't have to force it to try to understand how reality is, and it can't, because it works in duality. So
yeah, it feels like we've got some unconscious guilt that we've separated. Now we're in big trouble. We're going to be punished.
It can never see that never really happened. It's always going to have this feeling of, oh, when I get back home, I'm going to be in big trouble, for running away or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember when I was about 6 years old, I ran away from home, and I only got to the end of the street, like literally 10 steps or something. I remember not wanting to go back because I knew I'd be in trouble. And when I got back, they were like, oh, don't do that again. That was a bit daft. And that's all that was said. But it always reminded me of, this is how my ego was, like, I can't go back to God because I'm going to be in big trouble. And it cannot see that it never separated, that's the original fiction, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. I'm all in.
Good, good. Wonderful. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll take Gabrielle and Melissa, and then we'll leave it there for tonight. So Gabrielle, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Oh my God, this is so on point. Thank you, everybody. So nice to hear all this. I don't know if the question's just gone now, but it's just about this fear and the love and the immensity of the love. So definitely the last week, 2 weeks, things are just deepening and deepening. And what I'm noticing is the love that I'm beginning to see in everybody is really apparent. So there's a little beggar on the street by me, and my heart just goes open so big.
Yeah.
And there's no separation. And I feel so, oh my God, I feel so much just seeing the whole divinity. But this is the mind. It's just been fantastic to just remind myself. Because to actually include myself in that.
And there's the key. We
Yes.
can love the homeless person on the street. We can love our neighbor.
Everybody.
We can love our boss. Everyone except. Yeah.
And 2 months ago, I'd woken up, maybe not quite 2 months ago, I'd woken up in the morning and I was sick and spinning. And I thought, wow, what's this? And I sat down and it was like a spaceship of love. It was so beautiful. But the fear, I could hardly stand, and this went on for a month. I could hardly stand up because the terror that was with the love was just so immense. I don't know how I even got through that month. And my sense is that love, which was definitely getting rejected by the mind, gradually, it's so slow, just been filtering through without me even.
Despite my best resistance, this love has its way with me anyway, without, whether like the best I hold back, it happens anyway. Yeah. We just make it more, we slow it down and make it more challenging for ourselves.
Oh my God, I cannot tell you how hard the last 2 months have been, just with the amount of fear. And trying to go back into this idea of I can do something about this, which I know I can't as a egoic sense of self. There's nothing I can do. So yeah, just thanks. I mean, this has been so amazingly helpful.
For me, fear was it came back up again, as we were just talking about with Rob, when it became very clear that something was really happening in my awakening, there was this resurgence of fear. And I'd done a lot of questioning and contemplation about it and everything, come to see that it wasn't really true, I was unsafe, that I couldn't die, all of that. And in the end, it just came down to, can I just let this be? Can I just sit with this fear? Not literally sitting with it, just moving through my life with it, and give it as much right to exist as anything else, as bliss and peace. And I say fear, it was absolute outright terror, panic, dread. It wasn't just fear, it was full on, like flood the whole system, you know how I mean. And it went on long enough and strong enough to actually I tried every one of my spiritual, spanners and screwdrivers to try to fix it, and nothing worked. And in the end, there was just this surrender that happened. If it's going to be here, it's going to be here. And then there was this moment of absolute bliss and terror at the same time, because I just wasn't trying to do anything about it for the first time ever, perhaps. Not even trying to accept it or be with it or all of that stuff that we do.
Yeah, and I think this, I was not contemplating, it's almost like it's always contemplation now without, but it's like, what are you doing, Gabby? You can't control this at all. You've got because nothing will work now at all. No, even the contemplations, if I think I've got to be in charge of the contemplations. But
it just comes down to embracing that. For me, it came down to embracing the fact that anytime anything like that arose, whether it's guilt, shame, fear, anything, something is going to hit the panic button and try to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that remnant of ego, like, oh my God, I got to do something to get rid of this. So it was like embracing this fear. Didn't mean liking it, of course, just accepting it was here. Also, just completely accepting that something gets up and picks up its toolkit and tries to start to fix it.
Yeah.
And that is a part of me as well. And it's okay. I don't have to try to get rid of that guy running around with his screwdriver, you know, trying to sort something out.
And that kindness piece is just so gentle. And I'm actually just going to write that down tonight to say, just my only word now is just kindness.
Yeah.
Each day to whatever's arising, whether it's
and that's
fear
the
or
only missing step is being kind to our egoic sense of self. When I finally stop needing it to go, or you know, it does what it does and it does it well. It tries to do stuff, and its modus operandi is like, I'm going to do something about this, and it's like, oh, there, that's fine, you have a go, and you know, and I don't need you to go away.
It's funny why we're so scared, because the love is immense, isn't it? I mean, once you've seen that vastness of love,
but that's why the fear. Once you've tasted that vastness of love, you know that it's going to take over your life, and that's all you want. And so
I got scared. I got scared years ago, Helen, when there had been such an opening into that, and it disrupted my life. All the people around me so much. They could. No one wanted to be around me. I was just full of love and bliss. And
there's nothing more annoying when you're miserable than a happy person, is there?
No, but I think what happened, I couldn't function, thinking, I was almost like I felt I've got to wait for these people to feel it first before I can let that back in, or some funny old thing.
Here's another defense mechanism you brought up another. I can't really let this in. It's not okay for me to feel so happy when everyone else is suffering.
That's key. Thank you. So thanks so much for everyone and your talk. It's great. Thank you.
You're doing amazing. I hope you realize that.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Lovely. And last but not least is Melissa. Hi.
So you had said that love has to be evoked or invited in. And I think a little bit earlier than that, you said that there is no separate self that has to, you know, overcome unworthiness. Or so if there is no separate self, what's inviting it in, and why is that? Like I see the you know, I kind of had an insight of, well, yeah, I have, even though I've seen that there is no Melissa, there is no separate sense of self, I'm still moving along with the assumption that I've got to overcome this unworthiness. And I also see that I can still operate as a separate sense of self, and it's not that separate sense of self struggles or is constricted to invite that love in. But if I think about myself as the noumenon or as the self, it's like just an automatic opening. So what is inviting that in?
You tell me. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? If there is no separate self, what is doing the inviting?
But why does it have to be invited in?
Because we are so well practiced at keeping it out that we don't know we're doing that. That's an automatic habit. If I met you for the first time, if we met on the street somewhere and we both think we're separate beings, probably the first thing that human beings do is kind of check each other out and go, is she going to like me? Are we going to get along? Don't say something stupid, you know. And there's this kind of automatic trying to get a handle on this first meeting and make sure it goes in a way that suits me, and the same will be going on inside you. And that is going on at such a kind of subliminal level, an automatic level, isn't it, in most beings? And it would be totally different or even alien to just show up there, just two bodies standing there, and neither of us know what we're supposed to say, or that we even need to say anything. So that might be the natural, normal way, but it does kind of have to be allowed or sort of brought forward in some way, because the love is incredibly powerful, but not forceful. It's gentle. It's incredibly, infinitely powerful. It's infinitely powerful, but not forceful. It's very gentle. So it's never going to kind of assert itself, because that's the opposite of love, isn't it? If I kind of pushed my way into your house and said, I'm coming in whether you want me here or not, that wouldn't be a loving thing. Would there be a kind of aggressive thing? So love just kind of goes, I'll hang out here until you decide you want me to come in because you think you're other than me.
But is there a conscious point where it's like, okay, I'm open to, or is there, I know as I'm going along the path, I know that the self is more present than the separate sense of self right now. So I know that there is more of an openness, but if I just kind of went along for the rest of this lifetime and never invited it in, would it just eventually
it's coming in
open
anyway.
to that anyway?
It's coming anyway. You can't stop it, because even the most momentous effort by our egoic sense of self to keep it out doesn't really work. Hence the fact we're all in this satsang. You wouldn't even be in the satsang, would you, and interested in awakening if our efforts to stay asleep had worked, to stay lost in the sense of being a separate being. So it's coming in anyway. We're just working with that process in a conscious way. So it's coming in anyway, and it's going to deepen my entire existence in this body, and then any body that comes after, body, mind, vehicle. And I can also lovingly invite and work with and soften around that, can I? There's a conscious opening.
So I noticed recently that I had a deeper seeing into the body, and actually having a deeper respect and love for the body, and realizing that I've actually probably hated my body my whole life, and just really seeing how beautiful it is. So I'm wondering, is that an opening to
Absolutely.
that love?
Yeah, absolutely. To see something as it is right now and love it. That they're the same thing, aren't they? To love something and to see it as it really is, rather than what I think it is. That's an act of love. And it was exactly the same, and I'm sure pretty much everyone can agree that I was so determined to love the truth, and yet when I actually looked at it, I hated my own body, hated my mind with a passion, and all that had to fall away. I had this kind of loving, and this is the inviting it in that we're talking about here. Why do I feel this way about my body? And do I need to can I really expect it to look like I want it to look like, or behave like, or feel like I want it to, if all I've got for it is contempt and hatred? It's just not going to work, is it? And even before that, would the self treat it this way? Would love treat it this way? And I'm not making the way I've thought about my body wrong. I'm just choosing something higher. It is how it is because of all the stuff I've thought about it. It's mirroring what I thought about it, and it'll begin to mirror back to me my love for it now. And it begins to feel better. It's got more energy, and then there's more love and peace flowing through. And you probably noticed that more energy and more aliveness that come with that.
Yeah.
It's like living in a house and trying to knock it down all the time, right? Trying to knock bricks out of the wall. I don't like my body. Well, you're living in here, might as well. We all do it though, don't we?
Yeah, but to realize that was like so powerful and profound, and I just felt there was such a, I felt like I just wanted to embrace my body and just love it, and I just felt so horrible for being so cruel to it all these years.
I remember the first time I was able to stand in front of a mirror, full-length mirror. I don't know what I was wearing at the time. I don't know, just some jeans and a t-shirt, but I actually liked what I saw. Nothing had changed before that. I still had pounds to lose and, all kinds of stuff. But just like, it's totally okay as it is right now. Why do I have to constantly demand it needs to be different before I love it? Like I was doing that with my own self. I was doing it with my body. I was doing it with my finances, and I was doing, all over my life. And my body was perhaps the last thing that I realized. It was quite shocking. The attitude I had subtly, even though I professed to be so loving of everybody and everything and the truth, it was still going on, inside. Isn't it nice to just fall back in love with it again? It gives us this beautiful experience. It helps us recognize the truth. It is our home for a while, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite profound. Thank you.
Lovely. Good to talk to you as always. Wonderful.
You too.
Whew. Okay, lovely. Well, what can you say? Wow. Thank you for all your wonderful comments and feedback and brave sharings. And I really would like to feel that we've had some kind of opening here, that there's some, that we're going to walk away, that word that Gabrielle mentioned, kindness to ourselves and to our bodies as well. That's come up several times this week in my discussions as well. Just kindness, if that's the one thing we take from this, then that's more than enough. So please do be kind to yourself as much as you can. It's not like I'm going to be completely kind to myself and I'm failing if I don't. Just as much as you can, and maybe just a little bit more each day. And developing a habit like that will change everything. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.